Yes, Espedia. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the NFL Oracle. I hope your day and your week are going very well so far. The NFL Week 11 is officially here, and I have a ton of picks to go ahead and share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week comes some new opportunity to go ahead and make some money. When I say I have a lot of picks, guys, I have a lot of picks for this week's NFL slate. I have 12 single bet, straight bet picks, as well as some parlays and some teasers to share. Those will come a little bit later in the video. So if you're looking for some guidance in this week's NFL slate, the NFL Oracle, that's me, has you covered. A ton of picks to get to in this week's video, guys. Apologies last week. There was no NFL Oracle last week. I was in Chicago/Indiana. I did a whole sports tour. I was at Notre Dame Florida State game. I was at the Bears-Pats game. I was at Blackhawks Wild. It was a crazy weekend, and unfortunately didn't get a video out. This is also the first edition of the NFL Oracle that is on the new channel, the More Guy Boston Sports YouTube channel. We talked about a little bit in the other videos. We had to move over to this channel just for the time being as we deal with some other stuff with YouTube on the other channel. But we're going to operate as if nothing ever changed or anything happened. We're going to keep continuing on just as we always have. So no recap for you guys. Just a reminder that we're having a solid season. We are 54, 36, and 3. That's right, 54, 36, and 3 on our single bets so far this season. We have been quietly crushing this all season long. Been fantastic. Let's keep the good times rolling. Let's keep the vibes high. A lot of picks coming your way right now. We'll go ahead and jump right into the outlier screen, guys, and we have a new release date for the NFL Oracle. Typically, this video was coming out like on Friday, Saturday. We didn't have a set date. I'm going to try and consistently get it out on Thursdays, which means we'll have a Thursday Night Football play now moving forward in every NFL Oracle video for the rest of the season. And so, with that being said, our first pick in this week's slate, we are targeting the Thursday Night Football game, Commanders-Eagles, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with the Eagles here, -3. Now, the time we're recording, the line is actually at -4, so we're buying a point down. It's -139 on DraftKings. As always, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. A little bit of juice on this one, -139, but I feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more safe with this pick at the -3 line. For me, and this is not just for this bet, this is any bet, I think there's always value in buying the extra point and playing a little on the safer side. I've seen it too many times where you lose by that half point or that 1 point can kill you. Buying the extra point or extra half point can make a world of difference in the world of betting. If you've been betting for a while, you too should know that. Sacrifice a little value, take them at -3. I think -4, a little too risky. The truth is, guys, I just think the Eagles are the slightly better team in this matchup. The Commanders, there's no doubt. I'm not doubting them anymore. I know I doubted them earlier in the year. This is a legit good football team. Legit good football team. Jaden Daniels is going to have a very bright future in this league. Their offense is pretty solid, and their defense, although not good, it's better than it was maybe in the first month of the season. That being said, though, the Eagles are rounding into form. Post-bye week, they have really figured things out. Their defense is better. Their offense looks better across the board. And part of that has to do with some guys coming back from injury, like A.J. Brown and whatnot. But the Eagles just look so much better than they did in those first few weeks of the season, pre-bye week. They've been really red hot. They've covered this line of -3 now in actually 5 consecutive games following that loss pre-bye week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That Bucs loss was definitely the low point of the season for Philly, but since then, they've been on a really good run. Now, granted, who have they played? That's fair. The best game since the bye week, you could argue, is the Bengals game, and the Bengals obviously are sub-500 team. All these teams they've beaten are losing teams this year. It's a complete fair point. It's the reason why I'm buying a point down to get them at -3, because I don't know if they're good enough to cover a spread of more than 3 points against this Commanders team. But I'm riding with the Eagles here mainly because the Commanders, over the last month or so, they're still winning, they're still good, but I think some of the shine is starting to wear off a little bit for me here. Obviously, Washington coming off a loss, a really physical game against a solid Steelers team. They now have to kind of quickly shift gears and go ahead and play this Eagles team on short rest on the road in Philadelphia. Kind of a tough spot for the Commanders here. And look at their schedule going into that. I mean, they lost the Ravens and they blow out the Panthers. No shock there. They should have lost that Bears game. They got bailed out by a miracle Hail Mary. Great play, no doubt. But they should have lost that game. The Giants, which is a dumpster fire of a team right now, they played them really tight in that game, and they lose to the Steelers. So over the last month or so, yeah, they still have some wins on their resume, but I do think you see Washington, they do bleed. They are beatable. I don't think this team is invincible. And I think the Eagles are in a good spot. They're trending in the right direction. They're hot. This offense, right now they're top 5 in defense, top 10 in offense. Across the board, some solid numbers for them. The Eagles' second best rushing offense in the NFL against the 28th rushing defense in the NFL. So they have a really good advantage there against Washington. And again, there's some question to be asked, if the Eagles' defense is really all this good, or they just played some pretty garbage team. I think it's a little bit of both, but I do think their defense has enough pieces to at least slow the Commanders down enough. I like the Eagles here -3 at home. I think the Commanders kind of a tough spot in short rest coming off that Steelers game to now shift gears to play the Eagles on the road. Give me the Eagles here -3. All right, guys, next up, our second pick in this week's slate. We're now moving into the Sunday slate, 1 p.m. kickoff. Well, 12 p.m., I guess, Chicago time. 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. We've got Packers-Bears in Chicago. I'm rocking with the under here, 40.5. Now, at the time of recording, which is Thursday morning, there's a lot of sharp action right now on this under. Just 49% of the tickets are on the under, yet 80% of the money at the time of recording is on the under. That means that there's some heavy, sharp action early in the week on the under. To me, that makes a lot of sense. Look, I know the Bears just fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, this week, but I don't think that's an overnight fix. I don't think firing Shane Waldron is just going to magically fix this entire offense. I don't think Waldron was the only problem. I think Eberflus has to take a lot of the blame. I think Caleb Williams has to take a lot of the blame. I think this offensive line is garbage, half garbage. This Bears offense, yes, Waldron fired. Maybe they get a little bit better, but this feels like an issue that might have to settle next season into the offseason. I don't know if Chicago can go in and fix this offense mid-season like that. I don't know if firing Shane Waldron will fix all of their problems. I really don't. And in the meantime, this Bears offense is not that good. So you have a Bears offense that's not that good to begin with, matched up with the Packers defense that's really solid. It is the 11th scoring defense. The 11th scoring defense in the NFL, 21.6 points per game allowed this season. They're 15th against the pass, 10th against the rush. So this is a solid defense overall. And again, this is a Bears offense that right now is 30th in passing yards, 24th in rushing yards. Not very good at all. So I just don't see the Bears contributing enough points to cash this total. And the total is pretty low at 40.5. If it keeps dipping lower, I'd be cautious about taking the under here. But at 40.5, I still like the under in this spot. I just don't see the Bears contributing enough points to go ahead and cash the over. On the flip side, the Packers, who will probably contribute most of the points in this game, I do think Green Bay will go ahead and win. No matter what, they are faced off against a really solid Bears defense. It's 7th right now in scoring. They are 7th in passing yards, 24th in rushing yards. It's kind of the one area where Green Bay can attack them is on the running game. But this is the most efficient red zone defense in the NFL. I guess one of the least efficient at red zone offenses, right? Green Bay, 29th in red zone efficiency as an offense. The Bears, number 1 in red zone efficiency as a defense. So some of these things come into play here. There's also Bears defense that forces a lot of turnovers against the Packers offense that turns the ball over a healthy amount. This is a really solid Bears pass rush. Overall, I do think the Bears defense should be able to at least slow the Packers down in this rivalry game, this kind of divisional game in Chicago. I think this game will be tight, close, kind of an ugly, low-scoring game. So give them the under here, 40.5. All right, guys, next up we have Vikings-Titans, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. Listen, when you do basketball, football, all kinds of different sports content on the channel, you mix up your terminology every once in a while. 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. We're going with the Minnesota Vikings here, -6 in this matchup, which is actually pretty good value. -105 on ESPN and Bet, -108 on DraftKings is available, of course, on multiple sports books for varying odds, but the odds seem to be pretty solid, I should say, in our favor. -105, pretty close to even there. Pretty good value. And look, I know the Minnesota Vikings, they've kind of fallen off a little bit. They're still winning. They're 7-2 overall, but obviously since that 5-0 start, they've definitely cooled off a little bit. You look at the spread numbers. They were perfect against the spread going into that Lions game. They were 5-0 overall, 5-0 against the spread. Since then, they are just 1-3 against the spread since the Jets win. So not great numbers for them against the spread. Their only time they've covered was the Colts game. They covered -6 on the Sunday Night Football matchup. Coming off a weird game where they did beat the Jaguars, but they really struggled. A 12-7 win against a bad Jaguars defense and a Jaguars offense that was led by Mac Jones throwing multiple interceptions. It was a really weird game. The fact they only won by 5 and they struggled to win by 5. Very weird spot. However, all that being said, I still like Minnesota, although I think this team obviously is not as good as maybe we thought, maybe back in week 4 or 5. I still think this Vikings team overall is very solid. This is still a top 10 scoring offense and more specifically a top 10 scoring defense, the third best scoring defense in the NFL so far this year. And this really comes down to the matchup. I don't like this Titans team at all. I didn't like them coming into the season. I actually have a future bet on their team total unders. I think it was 6.5 or 7.5 I got it. I think it was asinine that the line was that high. I don't know what people were thinking coming into the season. I'm not a Will Levis guy. I'm not a Mason Rudolph guy. It's just a rotating of who's going to play quarterback. Either one is not a good option for Tennessee. This offense is awful overall. They're the 27th scoring offense in the NFL, 31st passing offense. They actually have a decent run game. However, the Vikings have the second best run defense in the NFL. They also are an insane pass rush. We know they like to blitz. They're first in turnovers forced. The Titans are 30th in turnovers. So this is a team that turns the ball over a great, healthy amount, a shit ton, I would say. Fourth in sacks, second in QB hits, second in QB hurries. So this is a really great pass rush. And again, across the board, not good numbers for Tennessee. Tied for 26th in sacks allowed. Tied for 25th in QB hits allowed. So this is not a good offensive line, not a good offense against one of the best defenses in the NFL so far this year. On the flip side, Tennessee's defense is actually pretty solid. First in passing yards, 13th in rushing yards, however, 29th in scoring. So they're still giving a lot of points. That has a lot to do with, of course, their offense giving away field position and things of that nature. But overall, although the Titans' defense is solid, I wouldn't say it's a great defense necessarily. I think Minnesota should still be able to go ahead and win this game by at least a touchdown. This is a bad Titans team. They're going to be entering a rebuild here, a lengthy rebuild, and I think the Vikings should be able to go ahead and take care of business in this matchup. All right, guys, next up, our fourth pick in this week's slate. We're going to the Rams-Patriots game, 1 p.m. kickoff. I'm going Rams here, keeping it simple, -4.5. If you watched this week's episode of HTH, it's actually my Fade Me pick in that show. Make sure to go check out the new video. The new episode is available on our YouTube channel. If you don't know what HTH is, it is the video we do, the gambling show video with me and Ev. It's really fun. We do it every week. Please make sure to go ahead and check that out. We give out multiple picks on that show as well. This is my favorite pick, my Fade Me pick in that video. I forced Ev to take the Rams side of this thing. I am rocking with I forced Ev to take the Patriots at +4.5. I'm riding with the Rams here at -4.5. And look, truth be told, New England has been playing better the last 3 weeks. They beat the Jets. They narrowly lost the Titans in overtime, and they beat the Bears. I was there in that game in Chicago on Sunday. The Bears could get nothing. The Patriots defense had 9 sacks in that game. 9 sacks. And Drake May has been getting better and better every week. He makes some throws where it's like, oh my God. Not to get inappropriate, but makes me a little aroused. Like, it's crazy when he rolls to see. Listen, I love Brady, the GOAT. Hands down. But to have a quarterback who can roll out, almost running out of bounds, throw a cross body, and hit and throw an absolute piss missile to the receiver right in his chest, is perfect. I love Drake May. I think we have our guy. We just have to go ahead and put some pieces around him. But all that being said, I think we have to take into perspective who they've been playing the last couple of weeks. Yes, it looks better. Yes, they've won a couple of games, but it's the Bears who are just fired their offensive coordinator. They've been spiraling in the wrong direction. It's the Titans, who I just talked about in the last pick. Not a very good football team. And the Jets, who are also a bit of a disaster this year. I still think at the end of the day, overall, this is not a good Patriots team. I will stand by that. I think they're better than I think maybe we expected them to be, but this is not a very good Patriots team. The Rams coming off a rough Monday Night Football loss to the Miami Dolphins. The Rams obviously need these wins after kind of a slowish start to the year. They got to go ahead in a tough NFC field and rack up these wins. This is one I think they definitely can win. I just don't think New England's defense, I know they've had a couple of good weeks again, but I struggled to see how New England defensively will be able to deal with Puka and Cooper Kupp and Kyron Williams and Matt Stafford. Like, this Rams offense should be able to move the ball pretty consistently on the New England Patriots. I just think for New England, in order to win this game and even cover the spread, they're going to have to score a healthy amount of points. And although Drake May has been impressive and he's been getting better and better, if we look at the scoring numbers for New England, it's not very good. Let's just look at the Drake May era. And we'll even exclude, I guess we'll include the Texans start because that was his first start, but we'll include that one. 21 points versus the Houston Texans, 16 points versus Jacksonville, 25 points versus the Jets. That's the highest scoring game with Drake May this far. 25 points versus the Jets, 17 versus Tennessee, and 19 versus Chicago. They've only broken 20 points 2 times with Drake May, and they've only gone over 21 points once, which was against the New York Jets, 25-22 in that one. This is a Patriots team that, even though they're playing better, they're not scoring a lot of points, and I think in order to cover this number or even beat the Rams, they have to score more than 21 points. They're going to have to score a lot. This Rams offense is going to be able to put up some numbers on this Patriots defense, which numbers-wise, they look pretty okay. But I think New England, again, some of it's the schedule stuff. I think New England's not that good of a team. I think the Rams should be able to roll here and beat them pretty steadily as well. And to piggyback on that, just because I like that, as I was talking, I'm going to throw an audible here. I'm actually going to take the Rams team total over 23.5, which is -125 on DraftKings. I want to take it before the show, and I decided not to, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and throw it in anyways. I think the Rams should be able to score a healthy amount of points, and they're going to cover the -4.5 line. They're going to have to score at least 24 points in this game, I think. So the numbers don't look great. 3 out of 10 games so far, in the last 10 so far this year, 3 out of 9 games they've cashed the over. They're averaging about 20.56 points per game, but their last 3 games, right? 30 points versus Minnesota, 26 versus Seattle. Now they had 15 15 versus the Dolphins. But overall, since Matt Stafford, since they've gotten Puka back and Cooper Kupp, you see this offense has been playing a little bit better these last couple of weeks. And again, I just don't trust New England's defense to be able to slow them down. So I like the Rams team total here also over 23.5 points. We'll go ahead and add that to the ticket as well. All right, guys, next up, I guess now our sixth pick in this week's slate. We're moving on to the Browns-Saints game, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going with the Browns on the money line here, which is available right now for -108 on FanDuel. And look, betting Cleveland on the money line has not been a profitable business so far this year. The Browns, of course, are just 2-7 on the season so far. But I love this spot for the Browns. This is one of my favorite picks of the entire card, actually, for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the Browns obviously coming off of a bye week, so they had an extra week to go ahead and prep for this Saints game. They obviously have Jameis Winston at the quarterback. I know their offense has not looked great, main part because of Deshaun Watson, but a couple weeks ago we saw Jameis Winston against the Ravens gave this Browns offense a jolt. Now, obviously, the next game they got thwarted by the LA Chargers, and Winston had a really bad start. But the Browns got a little extra time. They got the bye week to go ahead and prepare to kind of get Jameis more acclimated to the offense, to get him more prepared to start. And what better place than to get a revenge game against his former team, the New Orleans Saints, a place where Jameis played for multiple years, now traveling to New Orleans against the Saints to play his former team on the road, coming off a bye, a little extra time to prepare. They've got, the offensive line issues are still there. But they do have some decent weapons with Njoku. They have Cedric Tillman, who's kind of popped onto the scene. And more importantly, they got Nick Chubb back, and hopefully with some extra rest, he'll be ready to go and have a big game here. I'm actually expecting the Browns to lean into Nick Chubb quite a bit in this game, mainly because the Saints' run defense has been atrocious. 27th right now, giving 141 rushing yards per game. I think the Browns can lean into that and run the ball all over the Saints' defense. They're not really good against the pass either. Now they lose Marshawn Lattimore, who they traded to Washington. So the Saints' defense, really, really a mess. And what quarterback knows his defense a little better than Jameis Winston? I think Jameis should have a pretty big game throwing and Nick Chubb running. I think the Browns should have a lot of success playing the Saints team. On the Saints side of things, they're obviously coming off an impressive upset win against the Atlanta Falcons with their new coach. However, they're 3-7, and I know they have Derek Carr back, and they've kind of gotten a little bit healthier and a new coach and whatnot. This is still not a good football team. You cannot convince me this is a good football team. They had the new coach bump, but we've seen in history, when these new coaches win their first game, the second game, they typically lose it. I don't think the Saints will go ahead and win this one. I think the Browns have a clear advantage in this matchup, some extra rest. I think that Jameis Winston, a little revenge game factor there. I think they're the better coach team. This Browns defense is still pretty solid. I think they can put pressure on Derek Carr, and when Derek Carr is under pressure, we've seen throughout his career, he struggles. So I like the Browns here on the money line in this matchup. All right, guys, our seventh pick in this week's slate. We're targeting the Ravens-Steelers AFC North rivalry game, 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. We have Ravens -3. Now, this is a tough one. I was kind of going back and forth on this one for a little while because, of course, you got the Mike Tomlin underdog factor into it. AFC North battle. The Steelers come off a massive win versus the Commanders. How is this game going to go? Honestly, to me, guys, this is a coin flip of a game. But I do think overall, Baltimore is slightly better, not by much, but slightly better than the Steelers. And so I do trust them to go ahead and get the win and cover the number in this game. There's really no mathematical number as to why I believe this, but I believe that a Russell Wilson letdown spot is coming. He's been really solid so far, and it's weird to pray on a man's downfall, but he's been really solid. I mean, since he's taken over for Justin Fields, obviously the Steelers have won all 3 games. They were an underdog in 2 out of 3 versus the Commanders and versus the Jets. They were underdogs in those games, and they went ahead and won. Some impressive numbers from him, some impressive throws and whatnot. I criticize the Steelers for benching Justin Fields, but to be honest, this offense has looked a lot better with Russell Wilson leading the charge. 37 points versus the Jets, 26 versus the Giants, 28 versus the Commanders. Wilson's been pretty solid for them, so I can't really, I owe an apology to Mike Tomlin. There's a reason why he's the coach and I'm not. But I think Russ is due for a letdown spot here. I wonder how he'll do against this Ravens team. And it's not even the fact that I think the Ravens defense will give him trouble, because this Ravens defense has not been very impressive. 25th in scoring, 32nd against the pass. The key thing, though, is the Ravens' run defense really solid. The Steelers like to run the football. The Ravens defense should be able to take that away. I just think at the end of the day, I just don't know if Russell Wilson can win a shootout with Baltimore. Now, the Steelers defense, second best scoring defense. We know how good this defense is. However, Baltimore, number one in a lot. I mean, look at first in scoring, first in red zone efficiency, first in first downs, first in rushing yards, first in yards per play, tied for first. They don't give up a ton of sacks, just 1.3 sacks per game. Third in passing yards, fourth and third down. I can keep going on and on, and they don't turn over the football. Like this is, I think, very clearly the best offense in the NFL. so far this year. And although I think Steelers can maybe slow them down a bit, I just don't think you can stop them. I think Baltimore should be able to score pretty consistently. I just think this is too high power of an offense for Pittsburgh to go ahead and slow down here. So I'll give me the Ravens here, -3. It's a coin flip, honestly. If they don't cover this number and the Steelers win, I wouldn't be too surprised, but I do like the Ravens in this spot. All right, guys, in our next game, we're talking the Raiders-Dolphins game. I actually have 2 picks coming from this game. 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I got first pick, Dolphins, -6.5. Now, the spread is actually -7.5 right now. But again, we're buying a point here and taking them at -6.5, which I think is probably the safer play. 7.5 is one of the worst hooks in the league. I would recommend, unless you're betting the opposite, you're betting +7.5. Very rarely would I feel comfortable taking a -7.5 point spread. It's always a trap. Taking Miami at the -6.5 point line. And I know the numbers, if you really go a deep dive, the Dolphins doesn't look great. It's hard to get a read on Miami with their statistics because a lot of those games without Tua or his first game. But, it's just weird. A lot of injuries, a lot of weird stuff. So looking at the Dolphins' numbers, besides the defense, like we're specifically talking about the offense here, they're the 30th scoring offense. However, in the weeks since Tua's return, you see 27 points versus the Cardinals, 27 versus the Bills, 23 versus the Rams. So since Tua's been back, they're averaging almost 25 points per game. So this offense, totally different story when they have Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. And honestly, I've been really impressed with Miami. Now, obviously, they look at their losses. 1 point loss to the Cardinals, talking since Tua's return, right? 1 point loss to Arizona. 3 point loss to a Buffalo team that has been absolutely fantastic this year. Really impressed with that one because Buffalo, usually they blow Miami out. They have Miami's number, including earlier this year, which was the game, of course, that Tua got hurt in. I think that Miami played them really tough in a last-second field goal, a crazy field goal career long by Tyler Bass. Loses Miami that game there. So really impressed with that one. And then they beat the Rams on Monday Night Football. Pretty nice win for them there. So Miami trending in the right direction. This is this is a must-win spot for them. The Dolphins are trying to catch up, make up some lost time with all the losses they compiled during Tua's absence, including the last couple of weeks. Some of those, like the Bills lost, the Cardinals lost, trying to make up for some of those losses now. This is a game they absolutely have to win. This Raiders team is a sunken ship. No pun intended. Oh, actually, pun intended, I guess. This Raiders, I really don't know if you're betting the Raiders. It's mainly just on the point that you think Miami's going to fumble this. The Raiders not good. It's a revolving door at quarterback right now. They can't run the football. They were passing decently in the first half of the year. Now the passing offense has gone out the wayside. They're not a good passing team anymore. The defense outside of Max Crosby is really mediocre. I don't like this Raiders team at all. They're gunning for a top 3 pick in this year's draft. It feels like Pierce, who they gave, obviously they were trying to make up for the Bisaccia mistake from a couple years ago where they didn't make him the permanent head coach. They make Antonio Pierce the coach, and he just lost this locker room, I think. This Raiders team's heading for yet another rebuild, which is sad for Raiders fans, but it's just unfortunately the reality. Another rebuild is coming your way, and this team has got nothing. This team's going to keep losing. I would be shocked if this team wins 2 more games, honestly. That's how bad I think this Raiders team is. I would be shocked if they win 2 more games the rest of the way. The last time we saw them, they got smoked by the Bengals. They did play the Chiefs relatively close. Again, they've had a couple good games where they played like the Rams close, but overall, blown up by Pittsburgh, blown up by Denver. This is the last time they won. They beat the Cleveland Browns. That's back in September. They beat the Browns. It's their only win in the last 2 months, basically. Just not a good Raiders team. I think Miami, who's trending in the right direction, should be able to go ahead and win this game. And my second pick from this game, actually piggybacking off of that take, I'm going with the Dolphins team total here, over 26.5 points, which you're actually getting from -102 on DraftKings, so pretty good value on this as well. And look, the data's not going to be great, like I said. With Tua missing most of the year, the data wasn't going to look great at all. But they've cashed it in 2 of their last 3 games. 27 points against the Cardinals, 27 points versus the Bills. They had 23 versus the Rams, so they missed it, but they were close. Since Tua's return, this offense has been a lot better. We'll go ahead and narrow the view a little bit. Again, since Tua's comeback, they've been much better. You're going against a Raiders team here that right now is atrocious defensively. The Raiders 30th in scoring, give up almost 28 points per game on average. So the Raiders just give up their average points allowed per game. They're 22nd against the run, 11th versus the pass. Overall, just not a good defense. They don't force turnovers. They don't have even though they have Max Crosby, the Raiders are not sacking the quarterback. They're not pressuring the quarterbacks enough. Overall, I think Tua should have a field day throwing. I think this is a good game for maybe some Tyreek Hill props, maybe some Jalen Waddle props. I think Tua should have a pretty big game. This Dolphins offense in general should have a pretty good game. So I like the Dolphins -6.5 on the spread and their team total over 26.5 points in this one. All right, guys, we're now moving on to the 4 o'clock window on Sunday. Our 10th pick in this week's slate. We're targeting the Seahawks-Niners game, 4:05 p.m. kickoff. We're going with Seattle here, +7 on the spread. Now, this bet is 100% on the basis that DK Metcalf should be returning to action for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, at the time of recording, he's looking like he's probable to play. If he doesn't play, I would recommend just ignoring this pick and moving on to the next one. But if DK Metcalf is playing, I like the Seahawks here +7. I know the Niners, they got McCaffrey back. They had a win last week, obviously. But even though the Niners won, there still feels like there's a lot wrong with this team. They barely escaped against a Bucs team that's even more banged up than they are. Despite missing all of his weapons, Baker Mayfield still somehow kept this game within scoring distance and scored 20 points on the Niners defense. Yes, players coming back from injury will definitely help the Niners, but I just feel like this Niners team this year, there's like a black cloud hanging over them. I just don't know if they can overcome that. And this is a tough rivalry game, obviously division rivalry game between these two sides. Now, they did meet earlier this year, and the Niners did take care of business, beating the Seahawks in Seattle 36-24. And of late, the Niners have kind of dominated this series over the last year or so. The 49ers have won each of the last 3 meetings against the Seattle Seahawks, winning by 12 or more points in all 3 matchups. But this Niners team, in my opinion, is trending in the wrong direction. Yes, they got McCaffrey back and whatnot, but there's just something about this Niners team. I just don't trust them here. The insights provided by Outlier. The Niners are 3-9, just a 25% hit rate against the spread in their last 12 games at home. It's not a very good number there. And overall this year, the Niners have covered the spread of -7 at just a 33% hit rate this year. They're 44% overall against the spread this year, but covering a spread of a touchdown or more, or at least a touchdown, I should say. 33% hit rate. Not very good. On the flip side, Seattle, they're 22% against the spread this year. If you're betting on Seattle every week, you've lost a lot of money. However, at the +7 line, a 56% hit rate. So the majority of their games, more than half the time, they're covering the spread of +7. I just think that if DK Metcalf is back, Seattle's offense should be able to generate enough big plays to take advantage and keep this game close. I'm not saying Seattle necessarily wins the game. I'm not saying that, but I think Seattle, with Metcalf back, should be able to generate enough big plays on offense to keep this game within a touchdown. For Seattle, your season's not over if you lose this game, but it kind of feels that way. Like Seattle, they have to win this game to stay in that race in that division, the NFC. The NFC is loaded this year. They have to win this game. I think Seattle's going to have an extra fight in this one. Obviously, these division rivalry games are always kind of tough, but I like Seattle here +7. All right, guys, next up we have Broncos-Falcons, 4:05 p.m. kickoff. I'm going with the Broncos here, -2.5 at home. And I was very much leaning on Falcons before the video started, and as we're leading up to the video, getting ready to record, I switched my pick, and I just think Denver, I just can't see them losing this game. I want to trust Atlanta because I've seen it sometimes this year where they kind of flash this brilliance. I'm like, there's the Falcons team. I know they can be. However, it's just way too inconsistent for me. You know, they lost to the Saints last week, a pretty embarrassing loss if you ask me. And then, yeah, they beat the Bucs and they beat the Cowboys, but those are 2 games where, those are 2 teams with a lot of injuries, a lot of stuff happening where they should have won by more. I'm not saying, oh, listen, a win's a win. You can't criticize that. But it feels like besides the Carolina and Seattle games, the rest of their schedule, everything's been so tight and so close. And this Denver defense is no joke. They almost, and they probably should have, beaten the Chiefs last week. This defense top 5 in scoring. They're 10th in passing yards, 7th in rushing yards. This pass rush is nuts. I just think Kirk Cousins, who is a little older, not really as nimble in the pocket as he used to be. He never really was to begin with, to be fair. But I think Denver should be able to cause some issues. I think Kirk Cousins maybe force him to make some turnover mistakes here, force him to throw some picks in this one. And on the flip side, yeah, Denver's offense is not fantastic. It hasn't been all season. However, they're starting to figure out something with the running game. Audric Estime, former Notre Dame guy, he's starting to find a role in this offense. They're 20th in rushing, but their running game is getting there. It's starting to get there a little bit. I just think that the Falcons defense on the other side, all year long we've been waiting, right? They have the names. I mean, Simmons, Bates, Judon, they have all the names. But this Falcons defense has not been good all the year, and we have to accept it at this point, this late into the year. There's just not a good defense at all. 20th in scoring. They're 24th against the pass, tied for 20th against the run. Not very efficient in the red zone. Again, this Denver offense is nothing to write home about, but I think this Falcons defense is just bad enough where Denver can score enough to at least cover the spread of -3. This is going to be a low-scoring game. The under actually not a bad bet in this one either. Actually, it's so good that I'm actually going to add it onto the card. So we're taking Broncos -2.5 and the under at 44.5 in this one. I just think it's going to be a really tight defensive battle where I think the Broncos defense is going to force that Falcons offense to make some mistakes. And I just don't see a lot of points being scored here. Denver doesn't have the offense to do it. I think the Denver's defense is so good. They're going to slow Atlanta's offense down. I see this being a low-scoring game. Feels to me like a 20-17 win for Denver. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this one, or like a 17-14 win, something in that ballpark. But overall, like the Broncos -2.5 and the under at 44.5 in this game. Look, guys, it happens sometimes. I'm recording and I'm talking. And I'm like, you know what? I actually like the under here. So we actually started with 12 picks. Now we have 14 picks in our single bet slate. We do have 2 picks left in our single bet slate, guys. The next one up is the Chiefs-Bills game. This is probably the game of the weekend. Obviously, big rivalry game. I'm going with Buffalo. It's 4:25 p.m. kickoff, by the way, Chiefs-Bills in Buffalo, New York. Going with Buffalo minus 2.5. This Chiefs team, I know what Patriots haters feel like now. And for so many years, it's like, why do people hate on us? Why would you hate on greatness? And now that I see what the Chiefs are doing and being on the opposite end of the spectrum, as a Patriots fan, a lifelong Patriots fan, I understand now. And I want to apologize to everyone because I was an arrogant asshole when the Patriots were winning, and now I get it because the Chiefs are doing the same thing, and it's annoying. It's like, how do they do it every week? And this is what happened in New England. Like, it's like voodoo of dark magic. Like, how did they win that game? Every game has been super close. You know, they barely beat the Chargers. They barely beat the Falcons. They barely beat the Bengals. They barely beat the Ravens. You know, they barely beat the Broncos. They barely beat the Buccaneers. They struggle with the Raiders. The only 2 games where they've really won narrowly is the Niners and the Saints. Those are the 2 games where they handled their business. They won by double digits. But besides those 2 games, the rest of their games have all been 1-possession games. It's crazy. In the last 2 weeks in particular, overtime versus Tampa, and then this one versus Denver, crazy. I think the Chiefs are so due for a loss, though. This team is getting better. They got some guys coming back. They traded for DeAndre Hopkins. Look at the Chiefs. They're the favorite for a reason. But I feel like a loss is coming. I feel like it's been coming for a few weeks now. They've avoided it. This is the week I think they get it. I think Buffalo is chomping at the bit. I think that's how the saying goes, chomping at the bit. They are excited. They are hungry. They're watering at the mouth for this matchup. This is a huge win. This would be a huge win for the Bills. I think the Bills, they've had a really strong season, but I do think some people are still doubting them, and I'll be honest, I'm one of them where like they're a good team, but I have question marks. Beating the Chiefs would definitely answer some questions, or at least make me more sure the Bills are a contender. Obviously, a really, really good matchup. This is a solid Bills defense and an even better Bills offense. This is going to be one of the most fun game, guys. Even if you don't want to put action on this one, watch this game. It's going to be one of the best games of the NFL slate so far this year. But I am leaning on the Bills here, minus 2.5. I think Buffalo, I don't want to say they're the better team, but I do think in this matchup, the Chiefs keeping that undefeated record, that pressure and that stress of being undefeated, I think that's going to come ahead, and I think the Bills will take care of business here. They force a lot of turnovers. Their pass rush has been surprisingly really, really good. Surprisingly pretty good. And then on the flip side, like they don't really turn over the ball. Josh Allen went from being one of the interception leader last year to throwing like 1 pick all year. The Chiefs aren't really forcing a ton of turnovers. Their pass rush is okay. They don't really get a lot of sacks. So solid matchup, a lot of fun. But I do think I lean the Bills here, minus 2.5. I think the Chiefs, they've been waiting to lose a game. This is the one I think they're going to lose. All right, guys, and 1 pick left in our single bet slate before we move on to the teaser/parlay section or parlay/teaser section of the video. We're targeting the Monday Night Football game, Texans-Cowboys, 8:15 p.m. kickoff. I'm going to play it simple here. We're going Texans team total over 23.5 points. It's from minus 135 on DraftKings. The Cowboys defense is a mess. The Texans are a little bit of a mess as well in their own right. However, Nico Collins should be back for this game, so that'll be a huge boost for this Texans offense. But for Dallas, their season's just over, man. It's a dumpster fire. It's unfortunate for Cowboys fans, for everybody really, because I do think like it's a little bit more fun when the Cowboys are at least semi-relevant. When they're this bad, yeah, you can make jokes about them and whatnot, and it's kind of funny. It is funny, but I do think life is better when the Cowboys are just good enough where like you give them hope, but then they lose it. This is just, they're flat out awful, and the injuries and whatnot have played a big role in that. But 31st scoring defense in the NFL right now. They're 31st rushing, the least efficient defense in the red zone. Now the Texans offense has not been much to talk about, but I think this Cowboys defense is so bad. I think the Texans, it's a good, nice little get right spot. They've been pretty close. They've only cashed this over in 3 out of 10 games this year, but you see they've got some narrow misses. They scored 23 versus Buffalo, 22 versus Green Bay, 23 versus the Colts, 23 versus the line. Like, they've narrowly missed this line. They've hovered around this line all season long. I do think they should be able to go ahead and take advantage of this poor Cowboys defense. So give me the team total over 23.5 for the Texans here. All right, guys, now we're moving to the parlay section of today's video and kicking things off, a nice, simple 4-leg moneyline parlay. It's just a parlay that I think will hit. It's the 4 teams that I would be shocked if they didn't win these games. So again, pretty simple. We got Vikings moneyline against the Titans, Packers moneyline against the Bears, Rams moneyline against the Patriots, and Dolphins moneyline against the Raiders. Now, we're talking about how many points they score and anything. They just have to win the game outright, and we get the parlay. It's a 4-leg parlay plus 289 odds. So pretty good value for 4 teams that I think should they have a clear advantage and they should absolutely win those games. If they lose those, and any of those teams lose, I would consider it to be a pretty massive upset. All right, guys, our second parlay in this video, we're going with some alternate spreads here. Taking a big swing. We're going Eagles -1 against the Commanders Thursday Night Football. We're going Vikings -2.5 against the Titans. We're going Rams -6.5 against the New England Patriots. Dolphins -6 against the Raiders. And Bengals +7 on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. I didn't talk about that game because obviously I do my Sunday Night Football picks video, which is a separate video on the channel. So make sure to tune in for that video coming out later, probably around like Saturday-ish, Friday, Saturday-ish. That video will come out. So it's a 5-leg parlay. All of them are just alternate spreads. In that one, actually, the Rams one, we actually went up more. We didn't buy points down. We bought points up. It's a 5-leg parlay plus 1,052 odds. So a pretty big swing there, but I think a pretty solid value bet. And then our third parlay in this video, we're just doing a little simple total parlay. There's some alternate totals here. It's a 3-leg parlay plus 229 odds here. I like to do usually 3 to 4 parlays in the video. We did one obviously massive one, and a couple of these where they're good value, but nothing too crazy. 3-leg parlay plus 229 odds. We got the under 45.5 alternate total in the Packers-Bears game. We have the over 40.5 alternate total in Raiders-Dolphins, and the over 41.5 alternate total in Seahawks-Niners. Parlay those together, 3-leg parlay plus 229 odds. All right, guys, now moving on to the teaser portion of today's video, starting off our must-win tease. We do this every week on the NFL Oracle. It's very simple. If this teaser hits and you comment must-win tease, or just comment must-win, excuse me. Sorry, messed that up a little bit. Let me rephrase. We're doing a little giveaway contest here. Comment must-win down in the comments, and if this teaser that I'm going to tell you guys about right now hits, we'll give one lucky commenter a free $20 Amazon gift card. So all you got to do is comment must-win, and if the teaser hits, one commenter who comments must-win will be given a free $20 Amazon gift card. So our must-win teaser for this video, again, it's kind of similar to what we already gave earlier with some of the parlay pick, but again, this is a teaser, so it's a little bit safer. It's a 3-leg teaser, plus 160 odds, 6-point tease here, and we're doing Vikings, Dolphins, and Rams. I love those 3 spots. Those 3 teams should definitely win all of their games. With the teaser, it makes it a little bit easier. So we're going Vikings even. They just have to win the game. It's basically a money line pick. The Dolphins have to cover -1, so they have to win by 1 point, more than 1 point. I say -1, so to cover. And then we also have the Rams at plus 1.5. So they can lose the game by 1, and they still cover the teaser. I think they're going to win the game anyways. But it's our 3-leg teaser, must-win tease, plus 160. So again, guys, comment must-win down below. And if the teaser hits, one lucky commenter to win a free $20 Amazon gift card. Next up, guys, our second teaser, we have our big tease, a 4-leg teaser, -140 odds, but it's a 13-point tease. So really good numbers here across the board. It's -140 odds for a reason. So 13-point teaser. Here's the 4 legs. So we got Steelers, who originally are plus 3.5, excuse me. Now we're getting them at plus 16.5 with the teaser. We have Colts +4, the original line with the teaser. We're now getting that at plus 17 against the Jets. The Seahawks are plus 6.5. We're now getting them plus 19.5 against the 49ers. And the Bengals, who are plus 1.5 Sunday Night Football, we're now getting them at plus 14.5 against the Chargers. So those 4 legs, they're all underdogs, and we're just getting these lines really crazy. Basically, the only way they don't cover is if they get blown up by like 3 touchdowns or more in all those matchups. So really good number there. Yes, it's -140 odds. There's obviously some juice on it, but it's a really, really solid teaser. And for our third and final teaser in this week's video, I'm calling this my prime time teaser. We're taking the spread in the Thursday night game, the Sunday night game, and the Monday night game and making a little teaser out of it. So we're going a 7-point tease, 3-leg teaser, plus 130 odds. We're getting the Texans at who are -7. We're now getting them at even odds. So all they got to do is win. It's a money line pick now. All they got to do is beat the Dallas Cowboys. Bengals, who, spoiler alert for Sunday's video, I do think they're probably going to go ahead and get that win, or at least keep it close. We're getting them at plus 8.5 now against the Chargers. And then Eagles, who are -4 in tonight's game, they're now plus 3. So they can lose. As long as they lose within a field goal, we should be okay. That's a 3-leg teaser, plus 130 odds, 7-point teaser. That's our third and final teaser and our final pick overall in today's video. So guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. I'll be back next week with another edition of the NFL Oracle, but until then, I hope you're all winners, guys. Enjoy Week 11 of the NFL.